Good Monday afternoon, everybody. My name is Eli Robinson. I am the Chief Trivia Officer here at Water Cooler Trivia. What do we do here at Water Cooler Trivia? We ask trivia games, trivia questions that you, your office, your coworkers, your groups, your organizations, your friends, your family all get together to play against one another, have a little fun competition, camaraderie, whatever it may be. You can find us online at watercoolertrivia.com. You can find me online at Chief Trivia Officer. And here we are on Twitch and YouTube actually talking about this week's game titled The Opposite. How did we introduce this week's game? On May 19th, 1994, the fifth season finale of Seinfeld aired on NBC. The episode, titled The Opposite, sees George Costanza doing the reverse of everything his instincts tell him to do. There's the Fab Four from Seinfeld. My name is George, I'm unemployed, and I live with my parents. Became the pickup line of the year in honor of one of the most memorable TV episodes of the 90s. It's opposite day here at Water Cooler. Accompanying each question is the opposite of the right answer. It also just so happens to be the 25th anniversary of the finale of Seinfeld, and so everything kind of like came together in order to come up with this opposite day theme. Now, let me show you, as when we do hints in questions like this before, people do very, very well. Almost 40% of people got a perfect score, an average of 8.8, one of our highest of the year, as well as a median of 9. A couple things we want to talk about. So the first is this question of like, what comes first, the mechanism or the theme? So most of the time when we are coming up with our trivia around here, we start primarily with a theme. We start with what time of year it is, anniversaries, holidays, whatever it may be that we're going to kind of work around. And then we develop a mechanism for tying all the trivia together from there. Sometimes it's very obvious, sometimes it's very clever. We obviously have the mystery rounds, which you guys are familiar with. This is actually one of those situations where one of our trivia writers actually came up with a mechanism first. So he sent me kind of a list of a bunch of like opposite ideas where he was kind of like, hey, like I kind of see this thing where we could give the opposite of the right answer. He's also the guy that did the Thesaurus game previously and the Wheel of Fortune game previously. And so you can start to see like, and we had this conversation of like, well, how do you actually use this opposite? Like, where does it like fit in the calendar? So we started to look up like, when is opposite day? Like, is there a national opposite day? Reverse, like whatever it may be. And it took a lot of like really detailed research to be like, oh, okay, like there was this episode of Seinfeld called The Opposite. And so like we can tie in using that when it was broadcast or whatever it may be. So this is one of those times where like we actually really like the mechanism of the game, and then we had to find a theme. Some of you may have found that it was a little bit of a stretch. But most of the time when you see our games, it starts with a theme, and then we thought about what mechanism would work best. Here's an example. Here was the hardest question this week. In 1987, Club Nouveau reached number 1 with their cover of Lean On Me. 15 years earlier, what smooth voice singer of Ain't No Sunshine and Lovely Day reached number 1 with the original version? And then we gave the opposite. So the opposite is Receipt Grows. If it's not so obvious to you what the answer is, it's because this was the hardest one. The first answer was like, the first question was the opposite, was found and it was lost. And so the answer is Bill Withers. So the opposite of receipt is a bill, the opposite of withers is grows, and so we gave you the opposite. So hopefully people enjoyed this game and this can see. We got a lot of guesses of like, what's the opposite of receipt grows, but Bill Withers is the answer. Like I said, people did really, really well on this week's game. The other thing we want to talk about, we don't talk about tiebreakers very often around here, although given how many perfect scores there were, a lot of tiebreakers are going to be relevant. I wanted to show you guys what the distribution looked like. So the tiebreaker was the iconic diner that is home to so many of Seinfeld's famous scenes is actually a real place. Tom's Restaurant, located at the corner of 112th and Broadway in New York City. What is the IRL zip code of this Upper West Side staple? So this isn't actually a distribution because I don't have like all of the answers located here, but you can see like this really large lump of answers around like from 10,000 to like 10,035. It's because like, people generally know what the Manhattan zip codes are, and then you can see that almost 10% of people got the tiebreaker exactly right, which is 10025, which is really impressive. You don't see, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like a lot of people. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4 down here. And of course 90210, like, as a wonderful Beverly Hills zip code would be. But one of the reasons this is so impressive is the median guess was actually 10025. So really cool that like this like wisdom of crowds things that happened is that like the median tiebreaker was the exact zip code, and as well as almost 10% of people knowing the zip code, which is really cool. And so I would imagine your game likely came down to the tiebreaker. So some Upper West Side fans here. Once again, my name's Eli Robinson, coming to you with the opposite. Next week we have a really fun anniversary of a famous song. Until then, keep on tripping on.